Okay, lesson 90, word problems with two statements of equality. Well, let's give these a whirl. We're going to be doing, these are word problems where we're going to have two equations, except they're not value equations. So let's just try them and see how we do. It says together, that should be Charles and Nellie picked 92 quarts of blueberries. If Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nellie picked, how many quarts could each of them pick? So we're going to have two variables. In this problem, we're going to have our Charles variable and our Nellie variable. I'm going to call them C and N. In the book, they'll have N sub C and N sub N, but I'm just going to stick with not using the subscripted variables for this one. So we're going to just read along, and we're going to come up with two different equations for this. It says, together, Charles and Nellie picked 92 quarts of blueberries. So we're going to write an equation with our first sentence here. So our first sentence, we're going to write an equation. Charles and Nellie, the number of berries that they picked was 92. We have no value in this problem, that's why I'm not going to use the subscripted variables. If you want to, you could say the number that Charles picked plus the number that Nellie picked equals 92. Whatever you like, you can use. Now this is word problems with two statements of equality. So they're going to be two equations that are equal. But here's the tricky part. It says if Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nellie picked, how many quarts did each of them pick? So when we go to do the second sentence right here, we need to think a little bit. If Charles picked 6 more than Nellie picked, so we don't want to say that the number that Nellie picked equals the number that Charlie picked. Number of Nellie equals number of Charlie. We don't want to say that. That's not true. Charles picked 6 more. So he picked 6 more. So that means in order to make the equation balanced, we're going to need to add 6 onto Nellie to equal our Charles. You see that? If Charles had 6 more, he had 8. Then if he picked 6 more, then Nellie would have 2. And in order to make this equation balanced, we would have to add 6 onto Nellie. So that's why I have that. This is a substitution problem because we already have it solved for one of these. So we're going to put what C is equal to where the C is in that equation. So you can see that instead of the C, since C is equal to N plus 6, we're going to put N plus 6 where the C is. So we're going to get N plus 6 plus N equals 92. Whoops, that should have been a 6. So we have our N plus 6 plus N equals 92. And we get 2N equals 86. And we would get N equals 43. That means Nellie picked 43. And Charles picked 6 more. So Charles would equal 49. So that's how we do. The big thing is going to be this equation right here, because we're going to have to add something on one of the sides to keep it balanced. We know the number of Nellie picked and the number of Charles picked aren't the same. Charles picked 6 more, so we have to add it onto the Nellie side to make our equation balanced. Let's try the next one. There's 6 examples in this video, so it might be kind of long, so just bear with me. I just want to make sure we cover every type. The number of boys in Sarah's class exceeded the number of girls by 7. If there were a total of 29 pupils in the class, how many boys and how many were girls? I think I'm going to use the subscripted variables for this one. I kind of like when it's the number of something, the N. So the number of boys in Sarah's class exceeded the number of girls. So that's our first equation. The number of boys in Sarah's class exceeded the number of girls by 7. So number of boys, there's more boys, right? So that means we have to add onto the girl side, because they're not equal. If you did like a little seesaw, the number of boys is greater than the number of girls. So in order to make this equation balanced, we're going to have to add 7 onto the number of girls side in order to make this equation balanced. So now we're balanced by adding the 7. That's the first equation. The next one says, if there were a total of 29 pupils in the class, how many boys and how many were girls? Well, we know the total number of boys plus the number of girls equals 29. Once again, we have a substitution problem. It's already solved for one of the variables, so instead of n sub b in this equation, we're going to put what it's equal to. N sub b is equal to n sub g plus 7, and that will give us, if we do that, n sub g plus 7 instead of n sub b plus n sub g equals 29. And what that does is now we have one equation with one unknown, so now it's solvable. So we get 2 number of girls equals, and I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, and we're going to get 22. Make sure whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So the number of girls is going to equal 11, and that means the number of boys is 7 more than the number of girls, so the number of boys equals 18. These are kind of fun. Let's try another one. Philip cut a 38-meter rope into 2 pieces. The long piece was 9 meters longer than the short piece. What were the 2 lengths? So this time we're going to have a long piece and a short piece. L is going to be our long piece, and we're going to let S equal our short piece. So let's play around with these variables a little bit. Philip cut a 38-meter rope into 2 pieces. So he cut it into a long piece and a short piece. So we can say the long piece plus the short piece equals 38. First equation. The second equation is the long piece was 9 meters longer than the short piece. So we know the long piece is equal to, it's longer, so that means for the short piece, we need to add 9. So you're always adding the number on to the one that's shorter or less to equal the one that's more or longer. So again, we just do a substitution. We already have L equals S plus 9, so we're going to go back up here where the L is. We're going to say S plus 9 plus S equals 38. Then we'll get 2S equals, and I have to subtract 9 from that. So I'm going to get, it's not uneven, or did I make a mistake? Yep, it's uneven. So we get equals, if I subtract that, we get 29. So we get the short piece, the short piece is 14, going to divide these by 2. So I get this right. 29 divided by 2 is 14 and a half. Usually we don't get a decimal or a half, that threw me off. And we would have to go back to the equation to find the long piece. We'd have to add 9 to that. So we get the long piece is equal to 9 plus that would be 23.5. And they are talking about meters, so you should have, even though in the book they don't, you should have, sorry about that, you should have meters in your answers. Yeah, that one's a little bit different. That's no subscript. It's not talking about a number of anything. You have to read into it a little bit, but the rope is cut into 2 pieces, so you have to add them together. We still have 3 more to do. There's a couple different types to cover. My little box doesn't fit over the top of all this. Alright, it says the sum of 2 numbers is 72. The difference of the numbers is 26. What are the numbers? So we have 2 numbers. Now when you're dealing with the difference of numbers, you need to have one number that's bigger than the other. So I'm going to call L is going to be my larger number, equals the larger number, and S equals the smaller number. So as long as you get these variables right, the problems aren't too bad. It says the sum of the two numbers is 72. So the larger plus the smaller equals 72. Now it says the difference between the two numbers is 26. So this is why we have to have the variables labeled larger and smaller, because you don't want to subtract the larger from the smaller number. So the difference of the numbers, so the larger minus the smaller equals 26. And look at this. We have an easy elimination problem. So we need to know when to use elimination, when to use substitution. So we're going to get two larger numbers equals 98. We added those, we eliminated the f variable. So we get L, the larger number, these are numbers, would be 49. We divide that by 2. And then the smaller number, we would just put 49 plus what gives me 72. So if I subtract 49 from 72, I get the smaller number is 23. Two more. The greater of two numbers is 16 greater than the smaller. When added together, their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller. So here we go. I'm going to use the variables g for greater. This is our greater number. And we're going to use s for smaller. So follow along again. The greater of two numbers is 16 greater than the smaller. So the greater, that would be our greater, is 16 larger, so it would be the smaller plus 16. You have to add it onto the smaller side so you keep your equation balanced, your seesaw balanced, or whatever you want to look at it. When added together, their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller. So we just have to read along with the word here. I know you can't see the last word here. When added together, it should say their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller. So when we add them together, the greater plus the smaller, their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller. And if you're going to say less, you have to put it at the end. You don't want to say 4 minus 3s. You want to say 3 times s minus 4. 4 less than 3 times the smaller. So once you get that equation, we have two different equations. We should probably get this one cleaned up a little bit before we keep going. So I'm going to, let's see, let's bring the s over here. So we're going to get, actually, let's bring everything over to the left. The greater minus 2 times the smaller. If I subtract 3 from both sides, we're going to get minus 2 equals minus 4. Let's just do that. So all I did was I brought this over, subtracted minus 3s from both sides. And then I'm going to do a little substitution here. I'm going to take g is equal to s plus 16, and I'm going to put it in where the g is right here. I do it a lot different than the book does it, so it's not even worth looking in the book. Minus 2s. I just hope I get the same answer this time. So we get, this is going to be minus s. If I have s minus 2s, minus s. And I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. It's showing how I'm subtracting it, so I get minus 20. And so I am getting the smaller number. We have to divide both sides by minus 1. So we get the smaller number is 20. And the larger number is going to be 16 more than that, so it's going to be 36. So two equations. This one was a little bit more complicated because I had to rearrange it and do some things to it. All right, the final one. The ratio. This one's a lot different, so pay attention. Hopefully no one's tuned out yet. The ratio of two numbers is 5 to 4. And the second one is the sum of the numbers is 6 and 3. Well, that's easy enough. We can do an equation for that one. But we haven't had any yet where it says the ratio of two numbers. So let's give this a whirl. The ratio of two numbers. So we'll just call them number 1. The ratio of number 1 to number 2 is 5 to 4. And then the second equation says the sum of the numbers, so number 1 plus number 2 is 63. And now you might be like, oh my, what can we do? This doesn't look like anything that we've done before. What we can do, we can cross multiply. Okay, we've done that before. We take this times this and this times this. And we would get 4, number 1, plus 5 times the number of the second. And then we're going to have to do some nifto substitution. So you have to think a little bit on these. This is where we're going to have to, algebra is going to start where you just don't plug them in. You have to actually think. So I'm going to, I think I'll solve for number 1. The first number would be 63 minus the second number. And then I'm going to do substitution. So I'm going to take all that stuff, number 1, and I'm going to put it down here. And I'm going to have to get my calculator out, I think. So 4 times 63 minus number 2 equals 5 times number 2. And I've got to get my calculator out. The book does not show at all how they do this. It's interesting. 4 times 63 is 252. Hopefully I can squeeze it in too. I'm going to move over here. 252 minus 4, second number, equals 5 times the second number. It doesn't look like I'm going to get anything close to the right answer here at this point. So we get 252. Sorry, I have to squeeze this in. I'm going to add 4n sub 2 to 5n sub 2, and I get 9n sub 2. And then we divide both sides by 9. And I get the right answer. I get the second number is 28. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And I get n sub 2 equals 28. And then we have to go find the first number and see if we have n sub 2 is 28. Right here, if I subtract 28 from 63, 63 minus 28, I get 35. So the second number, and I'm sorry this is so messy, let's read out of the room, is 35. So when it talks about ratio, you need to put the variables on one side, the numbers on the other, and then cross multiply. And after I cross multiplied, I had an equation like this, and then I had to solve this one for one of the variables and substitute it in, and this one takes a lot of thinking, but I think you can do it. Alright, that's it for lesson 90.